Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Tips. Guys, I'm super excited today. I have a good colleague of mine who is in the other side of the world, but he was able to jump on, and I'm excited to have him here. Darren, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm
Thanks for
good.
having me
I'm
along.
good.
It is nice and early.
Wait, what time is it over there?
6 o'clock. So
Wow.
it's
Well,
which
thank you.
is kind of late for me. I usually start meetings at 5 a.m. So it's yeah, a little line.
Well, I'm happy that you were able to get up a little bit early for us today. So thank you. Um, Before we jump onto your greatness, who is Darren?
Who is Darren? It's a good question. Darren is someone who loves building tech. Darren is someone who loves playing golf. Darren is someone who loves my family. I've got two young boys, and I like to be able to make sure I have enough time for them, make sure I have enough time for my clients, and make sure I have enough time for me.
That's fantastic, man. So, how'd you get in tech?
Um, I, I kind of started straight out of school. So
Okay.
what is it now? 28 years ago, or almost 30 years ago. I found my way into tech um, by a bit of an accident. I think it was my cousin at the time was into IT support, and I sort of fell in
Mhm.
with that. And then I fell into a job where it was all it was about support, but then I just fell into love with programming,
Okay.
and made some really good friends. And I fell in love with software and building the concept of being able to build things that didn't exist with by yourself or with a small team. I
Mm-hmm.
love that my father was a builder for building houses and kitchen
Mm.
renovations and bathroom renovations. So the concept of creation is something that I was born up with.
Yeah.
Um, and so for me, the path of being able to do that with software was cool. It was something I really wanted to get stuck into, and I did. I've done that all my life.
Well, tell me more about, right? Because you've been in tech all your life. Tell me more about what you got working on right now. What do you guys got going on right now in the tech space?
Um, I think a lot of companies I see out there at the moment are building a lot of stuff with AI. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get into the AI space. Um, for the clients that I've worked with, most of them are service business owners,
Okay.
and they're trying to solve problems in the market that they're in, whether it
Yeah.
be real estate, mental health, production systems, and they're experienced in their industry, so they can see these niche issues that they've got, but they know that all of the colleagues in the industry are having them as well.
Yeah.
So they look at it as an opportunity. So, well, let's create a secondary business. Let's create a secondary asset
Mm-hmm.
that can strengthen their current proposition, and um, and that's kind of their interesting things to work on. Where it was interesting, I was talking to my marketing guy yesterday, and we're hopefully about to pick up our first client, which is just about building software to help them more profitable,
Okay.
um, which
Huh.
is obviously another stream that you can go down as well.
I'm curious. You said building a software to help them become more profitable. Um,
Yes, so it's all around automation and all around streamlining processes between the client's request and the
yeah.
way the job funnels through their internal teams.
So with you being in that space, right, and you running a software development business, what has been one, some of the mistakes that you
Yep.
see owners are doing, right? When it comes, because some people just like they raise capital and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna build this thing. What are some of the mistakes that they're making? I'm sure you got a lot of story there, and like let's start with that because I'm really curious.
Um, I suppose a few mistakes that you see is, if you're raising money, making sure you're raising enough money so that you're not just getting the product launched, because that's the
Mm,
start. That, like, building the product is the training. And once you've got the product, you're now at the start line of a marathon. Now, if
mm,
you've exhausted all your funds and if you've exhausted yourself and your energy and your relationship with your team, it's really hard to do that next slog, because it is a slog, getting
yeah.
customers and getting their feedback and adjusting the platform. Um, these are all things that you have to do because you're building the software for your customers or your potential
Mhm.
customers. And if it's not right and if it's not perfect, they'll tell you, and you need to spend more time. So factoring in the energy and the time and the money that it costs to get you going after you've launched, I'd say is a huge thing to be concerned with. There's also a variety of ways that people launch products. They launch with a very, very minimal product. I think
Yeah,
someone said once, if you're not embarrassed by the first product you launch, you've done
too
something
late.
wrong. You've done too late. You've created it too mature. But I've also seen the other side too. I've seen people launch too early. You know your customers, you know your potential client base, you know the expectations that they're after.
Yeah,
If you're going into a market where you are competing with, you're not just creating a solution to a problem that hasn't been solved, but you're found a gap in the market, you've got to be worried about those competitive products. So you have to build your product to be at those levels.
yeah.
Um, so it's a tough thing to kind of navigate.
I,
Um,
I'm glad you said that because, um, you know, I happen to be, I've invested in some tech startups, and the challenge that I'm seeing is a consistent updates, right? They gotta always updating these, and sometimes it's not planned out.
yeah,
So then there's a flow of capital that's gotta go into these things to keep it running. What have you seen, like in your experience, working with tons of different businesses? What are some of the pillars that you've seen them put in place to succeed in that space?
yeah. Um, the ones that invest in process early on, I think are the
Mm,
ones that they've done really well. And
okay.
and when I say process, I mean if you're having to do something manually more than once,
Yeah.
find a way to automate it. And that goes from anything in the business, but especially when you're actually building the technology, releasing the technology, managing your clients. It's about having a process that is automated. It's about a process that you can rely on that
Hmm.
has less human errors in it. Um, and you don't have to go and look for some beautiful AI solution. There,
Yeah.
there are some best practices that you can follow that allow that automation to allow you to get what you have built to your customers faster and also get that feedback from your customers faster as well.
I'm hearing feedback. I'm hearing processes. I mean that to me is huge because by not automating certain things, you not only losing time but losing money at the same time. So I'm
Yeah,
curious for
and the
you,
human
right?
mistake and the human errors too. Like
Yeah,
as human beings, we're flawed. We get tired. We get grumpy. We get frustrated. We make mistakes all the time, and automation removes the mistakes.
I agree 100%. Uh, you run a software business. You come across a lot of challenges that you facing as well. So what has been some of the mistakes that you've gone through in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Um, I think there's a lot. um,
Give us top three
I
that you can share.
I think um, number one is to find people you trust.
Okay.
And when I say that, and then give them the keys to be better. Don't give everyone in your team access to everything because you think,
Mm,
yeah, you don't need, not everyone needs access. We've had times in my early days where junior developers have made some mistakes, which have, affected the live production sites, which is a terrible thing to happen. And so
yeah.
we have processes in place to mitigate that. Um, uh, the other processes I think for me, most of mine are around people, um, around possibly hiring the wrong people, possibly
Mm,
giving them too much trust early, giving
okay.
that kind of thing. Selecting technology, I think, is a tricky one too. Um, and we've probably made some mistakes by selecting the wrong software. I notice that quite a lot um, with people that we work with, that they have let's say they're trying to create a product that has a lot of interactions
Yeah.
and they've gone with their web development company that says, oh, look, we can just build this on the back of WordPress. Now, WordPress is an amazing tool if it's used as just a website, as content that you're sending out.
Yeah.
Um, but anything else, it's extremely, extremely slow. So it's about
Mm,
finding the right tool for the right thing that you're trying to do. I'd say that actually probably would have been the learning for me over the years. Just spending more time on looking at the right product at the start, spending
Mm-hmm.
more time ensuring that you're looking at the pros and cons, and not feeling that rush that the first decision is the right one. You know,
Mm.
have a sleep, go for a walk on the beach, go for a walk around the block,
Yeah.
do whatever you need to, and you'll notice that thoughts start to come into your head that you didn't think when you first selected a
Yeah.
product that make you question that initial decision. So not rushing into that decision is also an amazing thing.
Wow. I think that goes for almost any business, man. Not rushing
Yeah,
into the
it does.
decision. Like, because you
It
hear,
does. It does.
success loves speed, right? In some things, not everything, right? Because sometimes you need
Yeah,
to move quickly to get things done, but sometimes you gotta let it simmer a little bit.
I think you do. We have that with I'm doing a proposal at the moment for a client, and
Mhm.
I purposely tell my clients when I meet them, when we do a quick workshop, like an hour workshop to
Yeah,
understand what they want, we come back with a reverse brief that says, here's how we think is the best way to deliver what you've requested. Um, and usually coming out of the meeting, I've got a great idea and I think I've got it nailed. But I force myself now to tell the clients, okay, I'll have it to you on Monday. And this was, Wednesday. I said, I'll have it to you on Monday, giving myself time to just let it think
yeah,
through, let the story of what they want to build through, so that when I come back, I've then had a considered proposition versus the thing that I thought would be the best idea at the time.
yeah.
So just forcing yourself to stop, um, especially with key decisions that are long term decisions.
I
Um,
agree.
that one's an interest. Yeah, that works for me.
No, I love it because I think, as the founder owner, you make a gazillion decisions every day, right? Something you got to make
Yeah.
quick and something you got to actually simmer out. I'm curious, we talked about the mistakes. Let's talk about some of your main lessons, right? Beside,
Yep.
the people, what are some other key lessons you've learned being in the software business?
Um, Technology comes and goes. Don't need to jump onto the latest thing as soon as it comes out. I think that's one. Um, I think we've found ways to hire people and be able to test them very, very fast and bring them on without. We've got a very strong process in the way that we work. So we're able to bring people in, give them a little piece to test, and then we decide if we go or not. And that sort of
Gotcha.
helps us to not spend weeks on,
Yeah,
like I was just saying before, take longer to make decisions. But when it comes to hiring, we're actually quite fast because, when it comes to working with someone, the only way
yeah,
to test if you can work with someone is to work with someone. You
yeah,
know, um,
agree.
I could have 15 interviews with someone, but I haven't actually tried to
Work with them. Yeah.
execute a piece of work. So, you know, bring them in quick, test their relationship because it is a relationship. It's not just the skills you're after; it's both.
Uh,
Um,
huh. I'm curious. Hiring, right? Let's talk about
yep.
hiring. What does your hiring process look like? What's the first thing, second, third, fourth? What does that look like for you guys?
Um, our process is first of all identifying the role that we want, and
Okay.
then making sure that um, for instance, the way that we work with our clients is we can either minimize the client interaction by being better at process.
Mm-hmm.
So that might mean we hire another project coordinator, another QA person, so that what we build and the reports we build are better, which means the client doesn't need to see us as much. Or do we hire someone on the front end to, manage the client, to have more client management? Then that changes every single relationship. So first
Yeah.
identifying what you need and why you need it.
Mm-hmm.
We then we rely on LinkedIn a lot for our jobs.
Okay.
Got a really really good reach. Um, we funnel things through a Airtable form where they fill out the details. It then comes to us where we curate.
Gotcha.
We then select who we'd like to interview, and that's the interview selection is based off things like availability date, obviously the salary that someone wants, the
Yeah.
experience they've got, all the key criteria that you'd
Yeah.
be after. We then do a first pass interview, just a 15-minute meet greet, just have a
Yeah, see
chat,
how it goes. Yeah.
nothing. Yeah. And then we do a second meeting, which is more detailed around the skills, the things they've done in the past, how they've gotten over
Mhm.
certain problems before, and we sort of work through mock examples. Um, and then we shortlist and make a decision and bring someone on. We usually have a 1 month probation period where
Gotcha.
it is around testing that relationship, and
Yeah.
we do make it very clear from the start as well. Like the our job is to make it clear for any candidate coming in, because I don't want them to have misunderstandings around the
Mhm.
relationship. Um, so that's kind of something that we've found works really well. During the interview process, if for me, if it's not a yes, it's a no. That's a
Okay.
big one that I've learned in the past. I've always there's a grey area sometimes where you meet someone and you think they're amazing, and but there's something not right, or
Yeah, you're like, I don't
something in
know.
experience, there's something not there, but you have a gut feeling to say yes.
Yeah.
I've now decided that my gut feeling is not good enough for a yes. If it's not a yes, it's a no.
Mm. Huh. That's a good lesson. If it's not a yes, it's a no. So that
Yeah, even if they're close, if they're close, and you're like, oh, just not, because
yeah,
it's this person you're going to work with hopefully for years,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. It's a long-term relationship. I
yeah, and
agree.
you've got to get along with them. You've really got to get along with them, and you want people that are passionate. And for some jobs, you want someone that's just going to do a whole lot of things. In other jobs, you want someone to own it
Yeah,
and be the owner of something.
yeah,
And they're two
exactly.
different types of people, two different types of personalities. And you just got to know before you hire that that's what you're looking for. Don't hire a doer for someone that needs to manage a team, and don't hire,
Mhm.
someone that wants to own something if you're just going to delegate everything all the time.
I'm curious, do you use any form of assessment like the disc or any of those to help with the decision-making process for you guys?
Um, it's funny, developers, like we hire a lot of developers.
Yeah.
They don't Developers don't like tests, like just flat out. Like there was a period of several years where so there are different types of tests. So what I have done in the past is you give someone a small project, and you
Mm-hmm.
say, can you code this and pay them for 3 days or 2 days, whatever it is, to execute on something which might be a small task. That's one test. They're okay. They work. Um, Technology tests for technical people, where it's done through a website with multiple choice
Yeah.
answers. Um, I get a little bit of pushback from that type of testing.
Okay.
Um, Otherwise, the other testing is to get my other teammates involved and have a chat, and really get to know them and talk about technology and talk about process, because you want the investment in and the excitement. You want to hear,
Yeah.
that they love this technology because this technology does this or does that. Like you want that kind of passion to rise to the surface.
I love it. I'm a last question. Right, but in terms of culture, right? Because you work with a lot of developers, how do you build that culture with them? Like, what does that look like for you guys? Is everyone local or they're like all over the world? How do you handle that piece?
We're all over the world. So we just like ran an agency in Sydney with a business partner. We had lots of internal developers, and hiring local was always really, really hard, because you are fighting in Sydney, you're fighting with people like Atlassian and a whole lot Canva and the big banks, and they're
Yeah.
hiring 100 developers at a time. Um, so with Dazlab, it was always going to be from the start hiring global and finding the best people that we can find. Um, and so doing culture is an interesting one. Culture, I think, is something where I think it comes down to, first of all, being nice to people, caring, making sure they're okay. If
Yeah.
someone is working 50 hours a week, tell them to stop. Show them that you care. You
Yes.
know, being polite in everything you do, especially across languages,
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that you're saying please and thank you, you're welcome, and good morning. Just the basics of being a human being. That goes a hell of a long way. Um, what we notice is that because we are split over lots of countries, that you start to find pods of people that love to do a huddle together and they love to
Yeah,
work together because they've found a relationship with someone, and that's kind of the culture that they've liked to be involved in.
I
Is
love
that,
it.
one-to-one relationships?
I love it. Being a good human and really getting to know people outside of work. This is awesome, man. To kind of wrap things up, right? What is that one small biz tip from all you've experienced from the clients you work with that you can share with the business owners, our audience, that can benefit them?
The one, um, I I would say good things take time. Like,
Mm,
um, if you think something's going to take a week, double it. If you think it's going to cost 100 grand, double it, because you can only see where you, to a certain point. What you can't
yeah,
see is the hill above it, and
yeah,
so there's always something more. There's always something next, and most of the time, when you finish something, it's creating a problem that you need to solve again. So having the
wow,
patience to be able to work through those type of things is, and and know that you're building a company over a period of years. You're not
yeah.
building it over a period of days or weeks. Um, so it's just having the patience to know to make a long-term right decision and seeing it out.
I love it. Thank you for coming on. How do people get in touch with you if they want to work with Dazlab? What's that look like?
Just go to dazlab.global, or you can get me at Darren at dazlab.global on my email address. They're the two easiest ways to get a hold of us.
Fantastic. Thank you for jumping on, Darren. This was awesome. Guys, check out Darren, check out Des Labs. As you can see, he is a full of knowledge. Thanks for coming by, man.
Thank you very much, Shubert.